Hello everyone, welcome back to Alkaline Hydroxide 784. And today we are going to do a special episode of, there isn't any series to this, so I have nothing much to say about it. Okay. Um yeah, so this is just a special episode where I will tell you how to, study effectively at home, because I think it will be quite obvious that more people will have to study at home instead of going outside to the library or to Starbucks or whatever to study. So, some people may prefer being outside, but there is a certain way to study at home effectively without feeling distracted or whatever. So, I'm gonna talk about it and let's see how this goes. Of course, this isn't really just relevant for this current situation, but it can be relevant for anyone who feels like they want to have the option of just studying at home rather than going out or doing anything else. Yeah, so that's the introduction. I actually have a script kind of thing, so I'm gonna use that to make sure that I tell things in the right order and not just give me more work to do when I do the PowerPoint for this. Okay, so the next thing to answer here is why study at home. I mean, this for the current situation, you know why, but in general, why you can study at home is because if you go outside and study, then you have to worry about where you're going. You have to like spend a certain amount of time there, and if you're going somewhere like the library, you have to make sure there's actually seats over there to study. And some people may not like being in an AC or air conditioned area for very long. Like me, I don't actually like to be in an air conditioned place for very long. And if you go to somewhere like Starbucks, then you're kind of you have to pay for the Starbucks drink or something. And in a way, it may not be very nice for other people going there because you're basically sitting there for a very long time, just kind of like hogging the seat. But you get the idea. There's a lot of reasons why it might be better to just be at home instead of, studying in other places. Um, and for me, I just preferred studying at home. So, yeah, I did that during my A levels at the time where we didn't really have school and we can just study at home before the exam. I yeah, I really just studied at home and didn't really go anywhere else to do it. Okay, so the next one is like the rest of the points on how to make it effective. So I'm gonna go through them one by one. So the first thing that you would need to consider before you start studying is your environment, right? So usually this could be the reason why some people don't want to study at home, because they think the environment is not very conducive. So how do you make it more conducive to study? Well, the first thing is to, select where you're gonna study. If you have your own room, that's great, but I don't really do that. I literally just sit in the living room on a sofa, and the sofa is my own room, and I just have like a table in front of me and it's a mess. Yeah, that's the description of my studying area. But that means this could work for anyone, wherever you want to use for your studying area. But please don't use the bedroom because you're gonna fall asleep immediately. Yeah, like have a place where you can access a table or something at least, and yeah, you can keep all your things in that area. That's the first thing you need to do: choose a good place. And once you have your place chosen, you have to make sure it's somewhat neat. I mean, by neat, I don't expect impeccable, super clean area, because let's face it, when you're studying and when you're doing stuff like this, you don't really care about how neat your area is. Sometimes it just becomes a mess on its own, especially with all the stationery, the papers, and everything. But you should still keep it somewhat neat so that you have like a system. It doesn't have to be super super neat, but it has to be at least organized to some extent, such that you know where everything is and you are able to take all your things without being confused as to where they are. And it also kind of depends on how you are normally. If you're like me, who is very messy, who actually prefers being a bit messy, then okay, you can have a bit of messiness. But at the same time, if you're like the kind who is very not really OCD, but because that's not really the right way to describe it, but if you're very into keeping your things neat, then go ahead and make sure it is neat and organized according to your preference. Yeah, so that's the first part of environment. The second thing you need to take note of is your lighting, because that's actually quite important. You need to make sure that the area is well lit, because it's not just for your eyesight, but also it helps you to stay awake in a way, because your natural system will react to when there's less light, and you will feel sleepy when there's less light in your environment. So try to make sure that you get some sort of lighting, whether it's from the sun, the window is nice and open and you can hopefully get some vitamin D, I don't know, or from your actual artificial lighting. Make sure it's nice and bright and doesn't make you feel like sleeping. That's the point. The point is to stay awake. Don't fall asleep. Like, you must make sure that the lighting is enough for you to feel awake when you need to be awake, in the sense. And the third thing to deal with is noises. Well, actually, when I was studying for A levels, even at that time, my house, well, there's a lot of construction noises. There's some days I really just can't deal with those noises. And if you do have such noises, although I'm pretty sure there's going to be less during this period of time, you know why. But if in a normal situation where there's a lot of construction noises, then you can't really do much about it. You either just have to deal with it, like just tune it out of your head, like get used to it, or maybe listen to some music or something that is a bit more pleasant that you actually want to listen to. I don't know, that's one way to deal with it. But don't worry if you, I mean, some people really can deal with the noise. I get it, but the best you can do is try to get used to it as much as you can do. Unfortunately, I don't really have much other advice on that. But what you can definitely control are other kinds of noises or sound that you have in your environment. So if, let's say, maybe you have your own room, then maybe keep the door closed so that you don't have to hear anything outside. And if you actually want to minimize the construction noise, close the window and, you know, maybe the curtains as well. Or if you need some ventilation, then maybe keep the windows open but close the curtain. I don't know. Just do something that allows you to minimize the noises. And when it comes to music, that depends on you. If you can focus when listening to music, then go ahead and listen to it. But for me personally, I don't really want to listen to music if I'm trying to fully focus on doing something. And because I tend to get distracted by the music. Yeah, like I like to, you know, react to the music, and I end up getting distracted by the music instead. So if, let's say, I mean, if you're a kind of person who definitely needs music but tends to get distracted by normal songs, then maybe choose one of those I don't know, those study music, the background noise kind of music. Then maybe you can still do stuff. But if you actually want to listen to music, then maybe keep it at a low volume so that you won't get as distracted by the music. The only time I usually listen to music is when I'm doing something boring or if I'm like really sleepy after reading some, I don't know, history notes or something, then I fall asleep and I need to wake myself up, I listen to music. It kind of works, I think. Yeah. So that's on the noise or sound that you hear in your environment. Okay. So the next thing to take note of is making it easy for you to study. Yeah, this is like pretty important because, you know, if it's you give yourself more reason to study rather than making it hard to study. You know what I mean? It's like the opposite of keeping distractions away. Here you're trying to keep the things that you need next to you. So in the area where you're studying, make sure to keep your stationery, like keep some stationery. You can have one set on your table and one set in your pencil case, so you don't have to keep removing your pencil case every time. Or yeah, you can do that kind of thing. And you can keep your calculator, whatever things that you need for that subject in easy reach. Especially if you're doing science, you probably need some rulers. your GC or whatever else, just keep it in an easy reach. But I think for GC and long ruler and stuff, you don't have to keep it right next to you, but keep it in a compartment or container where you can easily access it. Or maybe in your bag, then you just keep it next to you and you can take it out from your bag. And also make sure to keep enough foolscap and the stuff that you want to do for the day. Like maybe you wanted to do these 2 papers, so just keep that ready next to you so that you can easily access it, and you can choose what order you want to do them as well. You can just take them out of the file and then just do it, and then once you're done, keep it back in. So just make sure that whatever you want to do is right next to you, so it's easy to access. You don't have to, you don't feel lazy to go take it or anything because it's right next to you. You have no excuse in that sense. It kind of helps, especially if you feel lazy to take your stuff. You can minimize it by keeping it right next to you at the beginning of the day. Okay, so the next thing is minimizing distractions, which is what I almost mentioned just now. So as much as you want to keep stuff that you need next to you, you want to keep stuff that you don't need away from you. So especially for your phone, you can try to keep it out of view. If you do have that need to keep checking messages every now and then just keep it out of view. It doesn't have to be super far away from you or anything, but just hide it under some file or something. And even if you know where it is, you're less likely to take it just because it requires more effort to, pull out to lift up whatever that thing is above the phone and take it. Or at least you're less likely to see it in your peripheral vision and then, oh, my phone, and then suddenly take it. You know what I mean? So just keep it off your view. That's the point. It doesn't even need to be like super far away or anything. But if you really have a extreme case of phone checking, then maybe you might want to keep it on the other side of the room and make it harder for you to take your phone. As for the laptop, it's usually a bit harder because we sometimes do actually do stuff on the laptop for studying itself, like listening to music or typing your notes or something like that, or reading something for your GP or something, I don't know. So for your laptop, I know some people use those apps. Those apps that block certain websites. I don't do that, so maybe I do have enough discipline, or maybe I just don't care, honestly. But at least the most basic thing you can do is to set guidelines as to how many times you want to visit a certain website or how long you want to spend on a certain website, so that you're aware of how much time you spend on the website and not just get too immersed into it or something. Like, for example, if you want to go to YouTube and watch a video for your break, just be aware, okay, what video do I want to watch, or how many videos do I want to watch. And once you finish watching, you say you just want to watch one video, then just select that one video to watch, and once you're done, just close it immediately and get back to doing what you need to do. Or if you're going to go through Reddit, if you're like me, sometimes if you go to Reddit so many times in a day, after a while you get too bored immediately and you close it after 2 seconds. So not 2 seconds, like 10 seconds maybe. But the very first time that you go through it, you will probably spend quite a bit of time. So if you want to limit the time that you spend on Reddit, maybe just say, okay, after this amount of time, maybe 10 minutes, then you should close Reddit. Then you try to limit the time that you spend on that website so that you don't spend too much time at one go. Yeah. So that's how you try to minimize distractions on your laptop, I guess. And if you're distracted by yourself, yeah, this is actually quite a thing that can happen. Like me, I get distracted by myself sometimes, especially since I like to randomly drum on my table, or like hum to myself, or like just fiddle with my own things, like my hand with my hair. You know what I mean? There's some people who get distracted by themselves. If that's the case, you can't really do much about it, but usually the distraction doesn't last for too long, and it may feel a bit more relaxed, more enjoyable compared to other distractions actually, so I don't really mind it. If you get too distracted by yourself all the time, then one thing to do is to make sure that whatever you're doing uses your hands. Like, instead of doing something that's reading, you do something that actively involves your hands, like typing or writing answers to questions or something. Then your hands won't do funny things and get yourself distracted in a way. So that's one thing you can probably do. I don't know. Or if you need a stress ball, then just keep a stress ball or something. And I don't know, keep your hands occupied when you're studying, I guess. Yeah. But of course, in the rare instance that you do get distracted by yourself and you just spend a full 10 minutes just drumming on your table, then it's okay. It's fun actually. It's quite cathartic in a way. It makes you relieve your stress a bit, and it's a bit better than other distractions, honestly. Okay, so the last source of distractions is in fact other people. So let's say if I guess my situation is quite weird because I literally just sit in the living room, and during A levels I might be a bit sensitive to anyone watching the TV. So yeah, if let's say you're in a situation like that where you are sharing the room with someone else, and that someone else is doing something that is distracting you, then it'll be good to tell them if they're distracting you. I mean, if you're too, if or if you actually, if you get distracted before you realize it, then I can't really help it. But yeah, that's the only thing you can really do about it. Yeah, just tell, or like if you have your own room, then just keep your room closed and maybe paste a piece of paper telling people not to enter or something. I don't know. That's up to you. So actually another thing that seems to distract us is, like for me, I don't really like to snack, but if I'm eating something, I will automatically go and watch a YouTube video while doing it, because I can eat and study at the same time. So let's say there are some people who might actually snack a lot while they're studying, and the snacks tend to be a distraction of their own. So if you're one of those kind of people who tends to get distracted by the snacks or whatever that you're doing, then try to keep those things away as well, because you don't really need them. Or maybe just limit them to your break time and not have it during your actual studying session. Yeah, that's just something that suddenly popped up in my mind. I don't know why. But I don't really snack, so yeah, it's in fact I don't really want anything. When I'm studying, I just want to do that and not other things. Yeah, just maybe just keep it to your break time so it's easier for you. Okay, yeah, now let's move on to the next thing, which is planning. How to plan effectively and plan well. Okay, so um the first point is that you have to plan both for the long term as well as for the short term. For long term, what I mean is like the big task. Basically, let's say you want to finish your TYS, and then the short term is how much of it you want to finish today, that kind of thing. So that's actually like the second point as well. So basically, break the entire task into smaller bits. So by task, it can be something as big as studying for this subject as a whole, or it can be something like doing all the TYS for a particular subject. So if you just write it like that, you don't really know when to do what, and it just feels like such a big daunting task on its own. But by breaking it into smaller bits, like for example, you have your chemistry TYS, you want to finish all the paper ones by the time your MCQ paper comes, then you can, like, that's the main task. But putting it like that is very confusing because you don't know when to do what. But if you can break it down into, by writing down all of the years, the TYS years that you actually want to finish, like you write down all of the 10 years, and yeah, you can also write down how much time it takes to do each of them based on the modifications or whatever that you need to take note of. And from there, you can easily allocate each of those papers to a different day in your month, or something like that. Once you do that, you can easily know when to do what. On this day, okay, I want to do this particular year TYS and then correct it. Then on the next day, I want to do a different year's TYS, and you can easily conquer that big task by breaking it down into smaller bits. And you also have more things to take that way, you can feel more productive in that way, in that sense. And of course, yeah, after doing all of that, you'd have certain big tasks for each of your subjects, and you can take one of your planners, those, like the planner that your school gives you. You can use it for this. You have like each of the, like the calendar view, that kind of thing, and just write down what you want to do in each of those days for each of the subjects. And from there you can, like, that's like the long term into short term conversion of your plan. So after you're done with that, you can then revise your daily plan each and every day. So the first thing you do when you wake up, you can just, when you're going toilet or something, you can just sit down and then just think of what you need to do for the day, because it actually helps. It can be as simple as just simply thinking about it. You don't even need to write it down. You can just think about it and okay, I need to finish these 3 tasks today. And then you can, then if you need to remember what you need to do, then you can look at your planner as well and then remind yourself what it is that you wanted to do. And at the end of the day, see what you've actually done. And throughout the day, as you finish each task, you can take it in your planner, do whatever you want. But once you reach the end of the day, you can see how many things you ticked out, because ticking stuff makes you feel productive somehow. And yeah, you can see how productive you were, or how productive you wanted to be, whether you met your expectations, or whether you realized that you gave too many things to do on that day. And based on all those those factors, see whether you gave yourself the right number of tasks to do, whether it was too little, too much. But for too little, what I mean is sometimes you give yourself stuff to do and you actually finish it in half of the day and you have still a lot of time and you decide to do even more stuff. I mean, that can happen. That's one outcome of that. The other outcome is that you decide to waste the rest of the day doing other things. So I don't know, it depends on the person. But if you realize that you actually didn't write enough stuff, then you can write more stuff. But if you write like 5 things to do and you could only finish 3, and it's not because you took too many breaks, but because you just couldn't finish all of them in one day, it's just not enough time to do it, then you must realize, oh, okay, I guess my planning is a bit too ambitious, therefore I should move these things to the next day and then revise the plan for other days as well. So in general, what I would do is, so what I like to do is, if the exam is on, let's say, November 20th or something, then I have like the TYS. I only did it in that last month or so. Then I would keep like 1 TYS per day or every 2 days, depending on what subjects I want to do. And I'll make sure that the TYS ends before the paper, because by then I would have already revised the content of the subject. So the main thing I wanted to do was just finish TYS. Yeah, so that's the idea of that particular plan. And sometimes I'll have like a lot of papers that I wanted to finish in one day, and sometimes the paper can take 3 hours, and then I'll just end up not having enough time to finish everything, because I have to finish the paper and then go through the paper, which is even more hard to do than actually doing the paper somehow. Yeah, so after a while I get used to knowing how much stuff I can do in one day, and I can understand that even if I don't finish certain things, I don't feel like, oh no, I'm not productive, and just make sure that I try to finish it the next day at least. And yeah, it kind of helps. It makes you feel a bit less inferior, in the sense that you feel a bit more in charge of what you're doing. So the last, is it the last thing? Okay, it's not the last thing. Okay, the second last thing. Break times. Yes, break times are actually important. As much as you think, oh no, I need to study a lot or whatever. I mean, okay, you can study a lot, but please don't study too hard. Be smart. Don't study until you just get a headache after 3 hours. Then you're not able to study for the rest of the day. Even if you don't take a break, you just can't do anything. You just be zoning out into the distance. I don't know. Yeah, so don't be aware of that, and pace yourself properly. So make sure to have some breaks in your day. The breaks can be like 10 minutes, 15 minutes long. You can choose what you want to do during your break, like if you want to watch YouTube videos or go to Reddit or something. So every break you have something that you want to do, you can just do that quickly. And as I mentioned earlier, try to finish doing that thing within that time and then close it, so that you can go back to doing work. Yeah, so the next point is on being careful on how long your breaks are and what stuff you do during your break. So try not to get too immersed into doing whatever you want to do during a break. So like let's say you watch YouTube, like what I just mentioned, try to close it after you're done with the break. Don't end up just watching like one video, then watching two videos, and watching 10 videos. Don't do that. I mean, if you really want to watch two videos, then just do, you can watch two videos instead of one video. But after that, try to avoid it. Like try to avoid watching even more videos. But if you don't have such a ability to control yourself, then just don't watch the second video to begin with, because that could trigger the whole spiral down into watching 10 videos. Yeah. Okay, but of course, if you do end up doing that by accident, don't feel so bad about it. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe you just require a bit of stress relief once in a while. So just like don't feel too bad about it, and realize that you actually did it. So don't like do your whole 10 video watching thing, then you forget that you actually did that. But instead realize, oh okay, I actually did this. I should avoid doing that the next time, and try to figure out how to avoid it next time. Try to take active steps to avoid it. Okay, so yeah, the final point in this is, if you really don't want to do anything, like you wake up and you had a bunch of things you wanted to do, but you just really don't want to do anything. There's two things you can do. One, you can either choose the activity out of the list that you're most likely to do. Like for example, if you like a particular subject, then do that subject. Even if it's not in your list, you can just do something like that to help you get into the mood. So even if you don't finish everything in your list, at least you finish most of the stuff in your list, and you finish a different activity as well. But like for example, sometimes if I really don't feel like doing something, I might just do some maths, and then after that I'll feel like doing stuff. And even if I don't finish all the stuff in my list, at least I'll have finished most of the things. But the other thing you can choose to do is to just take a break for 1 or 2 days and do whatever you want before going back into the studying with a fresh mind, like just diving back with a fresh mind and fresh motivation. Okay, so the point of this is, like, if let's say you have 1 whole month of studying, like after a while you definitely feel a bit burnt out honestly. So if you can choose to plan 1 or 2 days in the middle of your studying thing, or maybe like right after the exam, like let's say you have prelims and then you have A levels. So before the prelims, you already have started studying. So after prelims, you just have like 1 or 2 days to just relax completely, and then you go back into studying for the next, like going back to studying after that 1 or 2 days of relaxing, and you can feel a bit more fresh and ready to tackle the stuff that you need to do, and you feel a bit more motivated to actually study. I mean, but please don't overdo it. Don't overdo the whole 1 or 2 day break. Only do it like once or twice in your entire 2 months. Don't overdo it. Okay. So the next thing is dealing with whatever stuff that you've finished. Okay, this is actually quite important. Like in my opinion, it is as important as actually doing the stuff. Like doing the stuff is one thing, but dealing with it after you're done with it is another thing. Of course, dealing with it can be as simple as doing the corrections for whatever you just finished answering, because corrections are important, and it helps you to remember what mistakes you did, and writing down the corrections also helps, because it puts the right answer into your mind, helps you remember it better. And but that's not really the main thing I'm talking about here. I'm talking about how you deal with the papers itself. Like for example, you have your tutorial, then you write your answers in a foolscap paper. What do you do with it after you're done? So basically, make sure to staple them all together, like staple whatever you need to staple. That's the first thing you need to do. Make sure to immediately staple. And also file your worksheets regularly as much as you can, or at least sort them out by subject, so it's easier for you to revise later on. It prevents you from, just wasting a lot of time searching for your worksheets. It also kind of saves your sanity a bit, because especially in this period of time, you may not have a lot of it, so you need to keep a bit of it left, like guard as much sanity as possible. Yeah, so but if you really don't have the time to do filing, the best time to do it is during your holidays, like at the very beginning of your holidays, like your June holidays, like the first few days. you may not really feel like doing stuff, so instead of doing stuff you can just do some filing or something, and then just make your, just get it done in one go, and after that you'll be able to easily continue the whole filing process in a sense. Okay, so my suggested process for this is, when you finish the worksheet, right, the first thing you should definitely do is immediately staple it. So you don't have to file it immediately, but staple it for sure, and then keep it in a place where you know all your finished stuff is. So just keep all your finished stuff in one place, and at the end of the week, take that pile of like finished worksheets and then just sort them out or file them or something like that, because that actually helps you give a little break from studying itself, and which doesn't involve going to YouTube or something, but instead you're just spending some time filing some papers. It can be quite satisfying sometimes, and you can also keep your area a bit neater if you constantly clear out the old stuff and keep it into your file, and you can keep the new stuff that you want to do for the week, so it's easier for you to do stuff and not get very confused with where everything is. Yeah, that's why I think filing is actually quite important in my opinion. Or at least sorting them out into a pile, put a rubber band around it or something. I don't know, just do something of that sort, because that really helps you with your revision. It helps with the organization part of it, yeah. Okay, so the last part, so this is the actual last part. Okay, the last point is finding energy and motivation in general. Okay, so all this, until now I've been telling you how to do it efficiently, but the most important thing you need to do in order to actually do your stuff is to have your energy and motivation. So the most important thing to do is to get enough sleep. Just because you're at home doesn't mean you can just anyhow sleep. You should still try to sleep at a proper timing, like 10:30 or 11, and wake up at a proper timing. I mean, you don't have to wake up at 6 or 5 or something. You can wake up at 8 a.m., that's okay. Or just wake up at whatever timing that, like, just try to sleep at a regular timing. Don't anyhow, like, don't sleep for 3 hours a day or something. Try to get 6 or 7 hours at the very minimum. I mean, 7 hours is the minimum, I think, or 8 hours would be better. Yeah, just try to get enough sleep. And also make sure that you have like a daily routine of sort. It doesn't really have to be like super great or anything. Your routine can just be like waking up, taking bath, I don't know, like yeah, just I don't know, like when you eat your breakfast, your lunch, and all that, do that properly. Like, do all your stuff at a certain, like, some kind of timing or some kind of orders that you feel like you actually have some kind of routine that will help you get into the mood to study as well. Because let's say you have this particular timing for studying and then a particular break time for eating or something, then you know that during the time that you have for studying, you will feel like studying because you know that's what you're supposed to do. So make sure to have a routine of sorts. Yeah. And one thing that could probably drain your motivation is dreading the exam itself. I mean, that is a thing that happens. Like, you just dread what will happen during the exam. You're just very anxious about the whole process of doing the exam. Like, what could go wrong? You think of the million ways of what could go wrong. But please don't think about it. Try your best not to think about the exam. Instead of thinking about the exam, try to think of what you can do after the exam. Like, think of all the fun things you can do after the exam, because that will motivate you to actually study and feel more ready to go and do the exam, rather than feel like, oh no, I don't want to do the exam. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let's say you want to do this, you're going to do your maths exam, and then you're dreading doing it. But instead of worrying about the exam and what you could do wrong in the exam, think about what you want to do after the exam. Maybe after that you want to take a small break and then watch your favorite show or something, and that's fun, I guess. Or you can think of, or if you want to think about it in a general sense, like after the A levels or O levels or whatever, you can think of, oh, I had this plan, like maybe you wanted to go somewhere or you wanted to do something that you couldn't do because of studying. Then you can think of the fact that you can do that right after all of your exams are over. So that kind of positivity definitely helps to bring up your mood a bit, and also helps when just before you do your exam, that period of time, when you're actually going to do your exam, it helps you a bit during that period of time as well. It keeps you a bit more happy. It prevents you from feeling too anxious about the exam itself. And as I mentioned earlier, you can definitely have a 1 or 2 days break in between and relax fully before you get back into the grind. That's definitely important and helps you to, not face too much burnout from studying. And the next thing you can do is maybe just have your conversations with your friends every now and then. By conversations, it's usually not real ones, but more like WhatsApp or something, or maybe like virtual conversations, because you're probably going to be at home anyway. You won't really get to see them, but at least have virtual conversations, because it helps a bit to brighten up your boring day and make you feel a little bit less lonely. Although I guess that's one of the things I didn't really do or I didn't really get to do. So yeah, that's one thing I really missed during that period of time. Okay, and the last point in this is to make your break time or rewards worth it. Oops. Okay, so 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 like, okay, if you have like a reward that you want to do, if you finish your certain, like the stuff that you want to do for the day, then you can reward yourself or something. Some people might do that. So for your reward or for your break time, make it worth it. Like, make it worthwhile for you to study and look forward to not look too forward to it, but at least have a bit more optimism, enthusiasm to study and finish whatever you want to do. So what I mean is, for example, if there's a show or a drama that you like to watch, then watch that during your break instead of watching something that's just going to give you more stress. Like, sometimes there's a lot of things that I like to watch. I like to watch educational stuff. I like to watch entertaining stuff as well. But sometimes during the time that I really studied a lot, I tended to watch more of the entertaining stuff, just because as much as I like educational stuff, it can give me even more headache if I've been studying for like the past 2 hours, then I watch that. It's just giving me more mental work. But during the holidays, I'll watch more of the educational stuff, just because I don't really have any other mental work to do, so I might as well learn something new. So in that sense, you should also just make it easier for you by watching the stuff that you truly want to watch. Make it something entertaining, lighthearted. Like, don't do something that gives you more stress during your break time. Yeah. And that's why the thing where you get distracted by yourself and you start drumming on the table or humming, that's also pretty stress relieving. It's quite lighthearted and it's more satisfying than just doing nothing, I guess. Yeah. So, oh yeah, there's one last thing which I didn't write here. If you are actually feeling very sleepy in the middle of the day, this will happen even if you get enough sleep sometimes. So if you're feeling sleepy in the middle of the day, one thing you can do is to take a very quick, like, don't actually sleep, but just close your eyes and then just sit there and do nothing for like 5 minutes, and after that you will definitely feel way better. It's kind of like taking a power nap, but without actually sleeping. It definitely makes you way more awake for some reason. So yeah, so just do that. That's one thing you can do. So I'm kind of done. The final thing to do now is just conclude this whole episode. This whole thing. So to conclude, well, I guess studying at home is it's not necessarily the best thing for some of you, but it could be the best thing for other people. But there's ways to make it work, and there's certain strategies that you can follow to make sure that you study well and you actually still remain productive at home. So just just hope that these strategies that I have told you actually help. And if you do find them useful and actually if you do find these strategies useful, then you can share it with other people. This would work for any age, I guess, any education level. Can be for O level, A level, university, I don't know. yeah, it could work for anyone. So you can share it with your siblings or your friends or whoever you think needs to see this. And you can also uh, you can add your own comments below if you want to. Maybe I can comment on that. And if you want to if you want someone to talk to or anything, you can just PM me and Reddit. Yeah, so with that, if you found this video useful, please press the like button and subscribe. And with that, I would like to say thank you and bye.